Hello, hi, sir. Good afternoon. This is Ken O from Canton Chambers Lawyers. Today is for 28th of November 2018. We are very near to end of this year. And then how about yourself? How your preparation of end of year or also was your 2018 year? Was it a good or not? All right. We are quite busy this year for helping so many other people. Today we are going to talk about how to apply or how to do registration of nurse in New Zealand. Right? There are so many nurses in the world, and then most of nurses are good demand. Means for all the jobs are shortage. So many country they need lots of nurses, and then New Zealand is also one of the top country which need nurses here in New Zealand. So New Zealand internal supply of a nurse is not enough to cover the demand of nurse in New Zealand, especially in New Zealand. For health industry is most of health industry job or that requirement is funded by government. So so many nurses are required to help so many other area in rest home, like a hospital or the private clinics. There are so many nurses demand, but many nurses are graduate from the nursing school in New Zealand, got a registration, then work for some years, and then they resign, and then they move to other area. In my opinion, when you are young and when you are single, and then you can work for like a 3 shifts, means for 24 hours, and then you work for 8 hours a day. That means 3 shifts you need. But when you are young, and then you can choose for night shift or evening shift, but it's okay. But however, when you get married and then got a family and then got a children, and it's very hard to work at night shift or like evening shift. So there's reason they resign as a work in a hospital or any 3 shift position. This is a purely my personal opinion. So don't take it as an official one, right? So in New Zealand, so we are many nurses are short, and then there are so many health industry need a nurse. So we are bringing some skilled nurse into New Zealand, but unfortunately, as a nurse in New Zealand, you have to be registration in New Zealand. Then you will be qualified nurse, and then you work as a nurse in New Zealand. Otherwise, maybe like a nurse assistant cannot be qualified to work as a nurse. So in all the registration in nurse is controlled by Nurse Council in New Zealand. For registration is from the local students who graduate of nurse school in New Zealand. They will apply for registration in New Zealand. Also in New Zealand, we are open to work, registration from overseas qualified nurse into New Zealand. In that case, we got some standard or some requirement as overseas people registration in New Zealand. So today we are going to talk about what requirement for nurse registration here in New Zealand. So today's topic is for like we do mainly for question answer type, because there are so many questions from overseas nurse, and then they want to know how to registration here in New Zealand, right? So Jaspil will like some summarize of so many questions from overseas, and then she will ask me 2 questions, and maybe then I can answer to that. This is more practical, and this is more solution to the overseas nurses' interest. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
answer your question then.
So the most common question, Ken, is that from our nurses watching from overseas is that what are the basic requirements to be a New Zealand registered nurse?
Okay. A very basic questions, and then usually for most important thing is that you have to be nurse qualification. Nurse qualification shall be equivalent to New Zealand bachelor degree of the nurse. So that means you need to get a good quality of nurse degree in your country, and then also you have to be registered nurse in your country. This is an essential requirement. And also for work as a nurse, and then you need a very good communication, because this is for health industry, means for the New Zealand, the local, like New Zealand citizen or New Zealand residents, peoples for life related work. So it shall be very clear, very understanding of English is very important. So you need a very good communication is required. So we have a very high English requirement. And then in nurse registration, we use for like two English exam is allowed. So one is for IELTS, one is for OET. OET is all band for a B or higher, and then IELTS is for 7.0 or higher. All band shall be 7.0 or higher, and then this shall be academic.
Okay.
When you sit the exam, there is two types of exam for general IELTS and academic IELTS. But you have to sit the exam, IELTS academic exam, and then you have to pass all band 7 or higher. And also, more practical requirement is that you have to like work experience for minimum 2 years nurse experience in last 5 years, or maybe like some 2,500 hours of nurse experience. Then either, but more simply, you can say the full-time 2 years experience is required. But practically in a nurse council, they see only nurse experience is not enough. Some country, nurse work as some registration site or any simple nurse work, but in New Zealand Nurse Council may not count as a 2 years experience required. So more common thing or common understanding is shall be you work in a hospital or like some clinical nurse experience minimum for 2 years is required in last 5 years. Right? And what this is like all the documentation requirement. And then another requirement here in New Zealand, so we call the CAP course. CAP course is for overseas nurse and come to New Zealand, and then they do some practical like competence assessment, right? So once this is done, and then you finish for two requirement, for documentation requirement and the practical assessment requirements are done, and then Nurse Council will register as a nurse. And then once you register a nurse, then it's a very easy to find a job, because this is a big demand. After you got some job, and then we can help you for work visa and residence visa later on.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, Ken. You mentioned about the qualification. So is there any age limit? You mentioned about English requirement, about degree, but is there any age limit for any nurse who has a 2 years experience for the past 5 years can come to New Zealand?
All right. Okay. For age side, and we have to see two aspects. One aspect is for purely for registration in New Zealand, and then there is no any age limit there. But however, if you registration done in New Zealand as a nurse, and then as the overseas people, then you need to settle here in New Zealand. That means for this visa requirement is there. When you got the job as a nurse, and then if you work as a work visa only, and then work visa is also no age limit there. But if you want to apply for the residence visa, and then you have to apply for the residence visa under the skilled migrant category, then there is an age limit there. When you apply for residence visa under the skilled migrant category, then 55 years old is age limit. So then I do recommend at least for 53 or 54 years under, shall apply for nurse registration. And once finished for your nurse registration complete, and then find a job, and then straight apply for residence, then maybe up to 54 years will be fine. But I do recommend for like 53 or 54 under is better.
Okay. Can you scroll down? We have one viewer, Nikaso. So can
Okay.
you,
Hi, Nika. So hi, how are you?
And then she's asking she's working in a cardio clinic.
Yeah.
How can she apply?
All right. Okay. Nika, so can you tell me for how many years you work experience in a cardio clinic? And I told you that the requirement is for your nurse registration, and then university like bachelor degree, and then English requirement, and also one of our practical requirement is that for you need to work for minimum 2 years experience. I think maybe you got a cardio or clinic means, but this is a clinical in the hospital experience. So if you met 2 years, more than 2 years experience from now on, and then you will be qualified. So you can apply. And then how to apply, just contact me, okay? We can help you.
Okay.
We are helping lots of for nurse registration here in New Zealand, okay?
Okay. Thank you for that. So anyway, we were talking about English requirements, Ken. So there's a requirement of 7 across band, but is there any exemptions for anyone, any national that will be exempted in taking an IELTS or an English exam for them to be able to get a nurse registration?
Yeah, in Nurse Council, there are 6 countries can be equivalent to New Zealand nurse registration. Nurse qualification. So 6 country registered nurse, and then they easily apply for registration here in New Zealand. 6 countries are, and then America, United States America, USA, and then UK, UK and Canada, and then Australia, and then Ireland, the 5 country. And then Singapore is one of the country can be recognized as equivalent to New Zealand. This country registered nurse and then got an experience in their country, and then nurse council will consider as a special case. You may not require any English requirement, and can straight for registration here in New Zealand. So in that case, if you work in those 5 countries, 5 country, and then 6 country, like some USA, Canada, Ireland, Australia, UK, and then Singapore. Sorry, there's a 6 country. If you got a registered nurse in 6 country, and then if you got some experience, just contact us. We can help you on that matter. So you don't have to worry of English requirement there. Other countries that you can contact us, then we can still help you for how to register it here in New Zealand.
Okay, so good. So common questions also, Ken, for this one is that nurses who have been registered overseas, we do understand that is part of the nursing registration is to complete a competency assessment program or CAP. So the question is, how long does it take for a CAP program or for a nurse to take their CAP assessment? How many weeks or how many months should it be?
Okay, this is a very a delicate issue for any nurse who comes from I can say a not rich country. And then this CAP course is one of the essential requirement to access or registration here in New Zealand. As I told you earlier, from 6 countries, and the nurse, and they don't need any of these CAP course requirement. CAP course is actually some theory and then some practical tests whether you are enough experience to work as a nurse here in New Zealand. So there are some like a CAP course program providers, and then they need some for this one. So it depends on for location of the CAP course provider, and then depends on the school, and then they have a different other program. This is not any set program there. So the course would be around some 6 weeks to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And it depends on the provider, and then like the fee is also like a different, and then roughly for around 8,000 to like some 12,000. All the courses are different, and some school has accommodation as well. Some school doesn't have any accommodation at all. So all the different school has a different program, but roughly for 6 to 12 weeks, and then the price is around between 8,000 to 12,000.
Okay.
And then when you study of this CAP course, and then your visa issue there, and then this is under 3 months program, and then you don't have to get any student visa, and you just come to New Zealand as a visitor visa, and then you can finish the CAP course. Then in any way, all the visa issue, we can help you. Don't worry. If you're qualified, just contact us. We can help you for nurse registration. You got some stress-free and then hassle-free, okay?
Okay. So on the immigration side, regarding if I get a CAP course, if a nurse would get a CAP course, can they work? Are they on the work visa? They're on a visitor visa? What kind of visa do they need to have to take a CAP course? Those are from overseas.
Yeah. When you do the CAP course, this is a CAP course provider can give opportunity. Then basically you can come to New Zealand as a visitor visa status. That means a visitor visa status you cannot work. But however, under the New Zealand immigration policy, if you are a temporary visa holder, you can study for maximum maybe 12 weeks, means for less than 3 months course, you can study there. So that means when you come to New Zealand as a CAP course, then you can come to New Zealand as a visitor visa, and then you can finish for CAP course, but you cannot officially work for make any money for that. But you will be joined to for practical experience. For example, some a hospital or some has any experience in restaurant home, but this is for like some training or like some assessment program. So this is not actually work, and then this is not may not be paid for that experience. Yep, assessment. Yep.
Okay. Can they bring their partners or children during this time, during the CAP course?
If you really want to bring your partner, if you really love your partners, then you can bring your partner. However, the partner shall have a separate visa. That means a visitor visa to come to New Zealand. So I don't think any independent visa apply for the partner for as a visitor visa. So that means this is purely for general visitor visa to have a CAP course. And if you really want to bring your partner, then it's up to you. You can bring your partner, but your partner has to meet the requirement of general visitor visa requirement in New Zealand. If you want to bring your children, then you can do that. However, in my personal opinion, for less than 3 months for CAP course like a requirement, and I don't recommend to bring your the partner. If you are really love each other, then you can come, right? But it costs a lot, okay?
Okay. But when can they bring their partners? If
Okay.
ever?
Yeah. So in the case if you finish all the nurse registration, means for your documentation finished, and then CAP course finished, then you will be registered as a nurse. Then you can find a job, and then we can help you to your work visa application. At the time, you can, including your partner and then children, like then as a dependent family, then you can apply for your partner as an open work visa. Then you will get a work visa, and then so at the time you can bring your family. Then you can settle down here in New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Okay, for the last questions, because we are almost on our 30 minutes now. So just a question is for the timeline, Ken. What is the processing timeline for us, for a nurse to be able to get a CAP course, or sorry, a CAP letter from the Nursing Council? So the timeline and also the visa for them to be able. So in short, what is the estimated months before a nurse or a potential nurse would be able to come to New Zealand to take the CAP course?
Okay. When you provide for all the documentation to us, and then from that time we can check for your all the documentation, and then when we apply for nurse council, like it doesn't take a long. Maybe we can expect around 3 months to 6 months, and then usually less than that time. But however, once you got some letter from council, and then you will do for CAP course, then we have to arrange to the CAP course provider, and then, but for CAP course provider is very busy, and then also the seat is for very limited. It's a very limited, and it's not a very like a big class. For very small numbers for arranging that course. So my understanding so far is that for until July 2019, July or June next year is already fully booked for CAP course for registration. So that means even though when you start now, and then you can see for at least or more than 1 year to come to New Zealand for CAP course, right? So even though you finish all your documentation side, and then still you have to apply for CAP course, then you have to wait until like a minimum June or July next year. So then you better to hurry up to registration. And then I do recommend for, if you really come to New Zealand as a nurse or nurse registration, then you can engage with us and then send you all the documentation preparation. And then once you pass the English exam, we can finish immediately for lodge of your all the documentation to the nurse council. And then when the nurse council assess all the finish of your paper, documentation side, and then we can book for your nurse count and a CAP course. Then wait, and then so when the CAP course provider give us to letter, then so you are ready to start. That's the next intake. Then we can apply for your visa, visitor visa. Then once the visitor visa is approved, then so you can come to New Zealand. Then we can help you to your accommodation. If your CAP course provider is like out of Auckland or the local side, and then we can arrange for your transportation. We can help you on that all the matter. So, and also each country has a different for process. So you better to contact us more quickly. And then even though like your English is not fully passed for like IELTS 7, and then even though you can contact us, and then you can do more good advice from us. And then because each CAP course provider also they require for different the requirement. Even though you have a 2 years experience, some CAP course provider do not accept you at their school because this is a big demand. They want more experienced people, and then this is some issue there. So and also like we have some time left. So any other question there, then we can answer there. Okay, like some in a Korean Kim Jiwon. Okay, thank you for that. And then also Maxil, thank you for that. And then Tina, thank you for that. And then okay, also Dan, thank you. And then many people say that's also like please to share of this the Facebook Live or some other people too with your friends. And then also we are doing some special program there. If you got a group of nurse together and then apply together, so we got some group discount, and then you can enjoy that before Christmas. If you contact us and then make a group at least 3 to 5, and then we can get some special discount for you. And also, if you got any questions, and then send us your questions to us, and then inquiry to us, and you can see for the visa apply at cantonlaw.co.nz, visa apply at cantonlaw.co.nz, and then we can answer to your questions, and then we can help your questions as well. And also, please do our main page for like and then follow, and then we will do update of our information regarding for visa matter, and then regarding to the nurse matter, all other matter as well. Okay, thank you so much, and then we can finish today, and then so you have all the nice day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.